My guest today, his name is Graham. Graham is a territory account executive or something like that, dealing in construction supplies. He has sold vacuum cleaners door to door, and he has done stand-up comedy. He's a fine salesman. He's one of the funniest people I know. He's also happens to be my brother. Full disclosure. Graham joins us tonight from Toronto. Thanks for being my guest, Graham.
Thanks for having me, bro.
First question, do you call yourself a salesman?
Oh, that's actually funny because I pined over what to put in my email signature because I prefer to go for account manager or account representative, I think is the word I'm using right now. I still feel like sometimes sales is a dirty word.
Yeah. There's always some euphemism for it, but so it's what we are. It's what we do, right? It's like who's the guy in Mad Men, the accounts guy, Roger Sterling. Roger Sterling, accounts guy.
Yeah.
So you do territory sales, right? So account executive, account manager, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's sales. I know this was a brief season in your life, but I think it's worth talking about. Do you recall? I do recall you selling vacuum cleaners door to door for a short time. Can you relate some stories about that? What was that like?
Yes. Red Deer, Alberta. I applied for what I thought was a warehouse position, and they have a real bait and switch when they get you in a room, and there's about 20 other people that applied for the same position, and they sit you in a room, and this guy comes out and he gives you this pitch. He's like, you don't want the warehouse position. You want to be a salesman. And then he goes through the whole pitch, and probably 2/3 of the people were like, yeah, sign me up. How do I do this? And then 1/3 of the people who had probably been to one of those before left.
Yeah, I had an experience like that, and I made a resolution to myself. I said, I don't think I want a job that someone has to convince me to take. But at the time, it wasn't vacuum cleaner sales. It was door to door selling, as a independent contractor selling like energy contracts for NMAX or something.
Oh God,
yeah. And it was the same thing. It was a bait and switch. It was the classified ad was like marketing specialist or whatever, like, and minimum qualifications. And I was like, yeah, marketing. And it was the same thing. They got me in a room and it was like, we're going to get in the truck today. We're going to go to Olds, Alberta, and we're going to sell these, and you make $100 every time. Right. Yeah. And, it's funny. I was going through old stuff. Sorry to hijack conversation. I was going through old stuff. I had like a journal that I wrote in for a little while, and I was writing notes, and I was like, "Fuck this was in my notes," and I went anyway. And of course, our grandparents lived in Olds, so I just bailed. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this. Let me know when you're leaving. I'm gonna go visit my grandma."
I did it for about a month, but there was this routine that the owner got in. They watched a lot of Boiler Room, that movie. Oh, yeah. And they really got into it. And it was kind of a hierarchy, in a triangle shape. This company was, and everyone kind of made money off each sale. But the owner of this branch was a megalomaniac, and he would fire people. But the understanding was that if you came back hat in hand and said, Roger, I can do this. I need this. Like, I know I fucked up. So that was a part of it, was getting fired. And he'd be like, nope, get in here, bring everything, bring all your equipment, and then he'd fire you, and you'd go beg for your job back, and it was just like this weird power move dynamic that he
Gross.
had. And then one of the times I just didn't come back and beg for my job.
So everyone got fired?
At some point, yeah. It's like sometimes on your third day, but it was because everyone was in on it. You'd always be with someone. And then as you were leaving, the guys would be like, nah, man, it's all good. You just got to go back and just level with him. He's a reasonable guy. And they're all in on it. It's just this weird dynamic that they all had. And, eventually
they're pimping you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And everyone's selling you along the way. And just because like you want to get in the chain, so when someone makes a sale, you make something off that. It's very, I know, legal purposes, triangle shaped.
Multi-level marketing.
Yes, yeah. And you know, you're selling these vacuums that are $2,500, and they're just not terribly different than something you'd buy in Canadian Tire, but they have about $2,000 worth of markup, so everyone along the way can have a pinch.
Everybody gets a taste.
Oh, and a very, very finely tuned script.
Yeah. Okay. So, how much do you remember about the pitch? Like, okay, well, pause for a second. We'll get to that. But like, how are you getting in someone's house? How are you generating appointments or leads or prospects or whatever?
So we were given warm leads, I guess you would call them. They would reach out to people. They had a different company that would reach out for air quality surveys. So this thing was technically had a HEPA filtration system, so that's how they would ask you some questions about the air quality in your house and how concerned you are with air quality, and then they would ask you if you wanted a demonstration.
Okay, pause for a sec. Sorry. Are you making these calls, or do they have like a call center that? Okay, so they have some call center that's generating these leads. Okay, right.
Yeah, and I think that was third party, possibly part of the same organization. I don't know.
Or maybe they're in Bangladesh or something.
It's very shady. Everyone's a contractor, like, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Your name's not anywhere on any of their their shit. They're not observing any employment regulations whatsoever.
Yeah. So my check came from bunch of numbers Alberta Inc. Like, and so paid my own workers' comp. But yeah, so we would show up with warm leads and just knock on roughly set up an appointment a day. So they try to organize a bunch in a day, and like we went to Olds, even though I lived in Red Deer, and
they love to go after the small towns, right?
Yeah, and it was typically older people. Mm-hmm. I don't think I had one actual sales call in the city of Red Deer.
Right.
I don't know if it was like "don't shit where you eat" thing, or if they burned all the bridges, or they just like got run out of town. Unclear. But that was an answer that I never got. But it was always like Black Falls or Wisconsin or Wetaskiwin or one of the little towns surrounding Red Deer. So every day was a little bit of a drive.
You know what's funny too is like, what year would this have been that you were doing this?
2003, 2004.
Yeah. So this is like pre-social media era.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, I don't know if anyone's still doing this now, if that still exists, but like a lot harder to bullshit someone now when there's so much easier.
Yeah, they just Google it and like, oh, you've got yeah.
Yeah, what is this? Oh, what's this air quality survey? Okay, so you get your list of warm leads and you call to generate an appointment, and you're canvassing a town. You go out with a group of guys, or
it's generally pairs.
Okay, right.
Only the senior guys went out solo, because if you go in a pair, you're sharing the commission. Mm-hmm. But so if you're new, you kind of just sit back and watch as the guy does his pitch, and then there's the soft close and then the hard close, and it's a very, very good script. I think they spent a lot of time tweaking this, and the demo, and you do the demo, and you pull out their vacuum, and you show them, and you run over a piece of carpet with their vacuum, and then you try it with our vacuum, which has a brand new bag in it, so... look how much it picked up, and your other one left us behind. So
think of all the pathogens your children are breathing in.
Yeah. Well, most of the people are older, so their children probably have children of their own, and are long gone.
So they've got a pretty dialed in presentation and pitch, and then you've got like specific stages where you hit them with a soft close and a hard close. And do you remember what those are like?
It was, I mean, there's always the presumptive close was a term that people used a lot, and basically the script and the meetings that we had always talked about managing objections. Mm-hmm. And that's, honestly, if I was going to take anything away, that was probably my first sales job, even if it was a bit of a scam. That's something that just that terminology. That's something that I've taken away in future. Is just managing objections, and that's a pretty common practice.
Yeah, that's pretty universal. I manage objections. You manage objections, and that's also a skill that carries over into your own life too, right? And you mentioned the presumptive close. We used to teach that in the car dealership, or the assumed close or the presumptive close is powerful, right? Okay, so how many vacuums did you sell?
I think 2.
Yeah.
Technically 1, because the financing didn't go through.
Oh, they're financing it.
And it's $2,500 vacuum, and you sign them up right there, and it was this lady that I think was just on pension, and she was very convinced that she needed this thing, but could not afford it, and they wanted me to go back and try to kind of push it, and there was these other options that they had that sounded sketchy, and I think that was the point where they fired me, and I never went back.
Yeah, you're like, I'm out. So some poor old lady on a fixed income, you've convinced her she needs a $2,500 back, and now you got this complex.
Yeah,
that you're taking advantage of this person, and I'm gonna assume probably when you make a sale like that, you gotta get it closed. You gotta get that thing delivered quick before they talk to their kids or someone talks them out of it. Like, no, don't buy that fucking thing.
Yeah. And so they are very aware of the regulations, and this is kind of built into it while you're being trained. There's the regret clause. I don't know what it's called, but I think you know what I mean. Like, basically, you can back out of it within...
Like a cool-off period or something.
Cool-off period, maybe a 7-day period legally. So they're very aware of down to the minute. And and they want you to keep touch, so you're still talking to them and just kind of keep them on track. And, maybe keep them away from their grandkids.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I actually remember... being at Dad's acreage, and a vacuum cleaner salesman came out, but the way that he got the appointment, I don't know why I remember this. It just really stood out. I would have been just a kid. The way he got the appointment was he called and offered him free lottery tickets. Hey, can I show you? Can I show you this vacuum cleaner if I bring you a couple of lottery tickets? Sure. He comes out there, and he dumped sand on the carpet. It was like crappy old shag carpet in that old double wide or whatever, right? And then he vacuumed it up with it's like, well, sand doesn't really stick to anything. I'm pretty sure you could vacuum sand up. And then he's like, well, let me try my old vacuum. His pitch wasn't as good as your guy's pitch. And then he brought out this old filter queen that he probably got at the auction for like $5 or whatever. And woo! It's like, well, mine works just as good. And this guy just like dumbstruck home empty, and had to drive like a 45 minutes back to town empty-handed. Oh, man. Maybe that's why I got into sales. Maybe from witnessing that.
Someone I went way out of town, and I showed up. This was, I think, one of my first solo, and I went in, and it was a bunch of older people. Not older people, probably like my age now. People just kind of having a get-together at their house, at their little farmhouse, and I was 20. And I walk in, it's later in the evening, and they just decided they were going to have fun with this.
Oh, no.
They offered me a drink, and they're like, okay, let's hear your pitch. And I went through it, and they're like, ooh. And then they brought out and all the features I was showing them, they brought out their Electrolux central vac system, and they're like, ours has that too. Yeah. Their vacuum worked just as good, and I was like, all right, I went through all my things. I got nothing. They're like,
I'll just go fuck myself now.
Yeah. They're like, do you want another drink? I'm like, no, I'm going to go drive into the ditch real quick.
Yeah, I'm going to turn into oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
Well, at least you didn't wake up in a bathtub full of ice with one kidney or something.
Well.
You ever get into any sketchy situations going to random houses?
Not that I remember. I mean, just...
Well, that one.
That could have been bad. The potential to be bad. It was just, they were all pretty lighthearted about it, but yeah, they were taking the piss out of me.
Yeah, I'm skipping ahead here, but you bombed.
Oh yeah, bombed.
That was preparing you for a later career stage in your life. Okay, but I'm gonna get to that. One thing I wanted to bring up is, after that, I know you did a few different manual labor jobs. I remember you worked in like a pork plant, and you worked as a roughneck on rigs and stuff. And I've had this experience as well, where I started a career in sales as a young man, and got sick of it after a year, and was like, I just want to do a normal job. I think I've been watching too much Office Space, and I went and did pipeline insulation, which is extremely monotonous, and I lasted like a month, right? Yeah. And it gave me more of an appreciation for those people that can do those manual labor jobs, because I don't know if it's ADHD or what, but I'm just 100% not capable of it. Like I would get so bored that I would become completely useless. Like I would be the worst employee in the world. So I wanted to ask you about your experience doing that.
Well, it took me longer, but I came to the same realization that you did. I was about 10 years, different oil field related jobs, oil rigs, pipeline, facility work, maintenance. I was a apprentice pipe fitter for most of that, and I just wasn't that good at it. I'm okay with my hands. I'm handy enough. I fixed shit in my house in a way that's passable, but I don't know. I just seeing people that were really good at it made me realize that. Well, at first I wanted to be as good as they were, and then I didn't care about it enough. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not to denigrate people that earn their living that way. It's just to draw a line and say, like, we are not them, and they are not us, right? Yep. And that's why I said it gave me a respect for people that earn their living and provide for their family that way. But then it also made me know, okay, this is not what I'm built for. Of course, I ran back to sales, got back in the car business, but
I tried to get into sales in like the oil and gas industry, but they're difficult jobs to come across. Yeah. Those are inherited jobs. Like your dad was the sales rep for this company, and it's tough. I was gunning for some kind of office job, something, because I was telling someone about this the other day. One of the inside sales guys at our work, he was asking me. I think he's kind of interested in going out on the road, and I said it's not for everybody. But I figured out that the manual stuff was not for me, but this is for me, because on site, I used to get separated from everyone else because I was a distraction. Because I don't know how to shut the fuck up. Yeah. I'd have to point out something or make a joke and that's all well and good in the lunchroom, but when everyone's out there trying to get something done, and I'm like, oh, I got something to say about everything, I literally would get separated, and they're like, go dig a hole over there. You're fucking annoying. And so I get to something like this where basically I drive around and talk to people all day. It's a oversimplification, but it could not be a more perfect job for me.
Yeah, it's the stimulus that your brain needs. It's funny. I had an experience like that too on that pipeline insulation job. Everyone has to have I don't know if you ever did insulation. Everyone has to have a big knife. Like everyone just takes an old
banana knife.
Yeah, because you got to trim insulation or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I set up. It was an 18-inch pipeline with this big, like, horrible mineral fiber, like give you cancer insulation.
Yeah.
And I set up a they come in like a half cylinder that's like 2 feet long that you wrap around, and then you put wires around it, and then someone puts metal around it. Anyways, I set it up on the ground, and I start throwing my knife at it, and then I start like taking a few more steps back and like whipping my knife out till I got really good. I was like, hey, you guys, Tyler, check this out. And I got like 10 in a row. And then I got everyone to come around and just throw knives, and like we got nothing done for an entire day, like 8 hours of just throwing knives. I was like, I'm the worst employee in the world.
He invented the knife game, which they probably still talk about.
Well, yeah. It's funny too, because as much as guys like you and me are not cut out to do that kind of work, those guys are not cut out to do our kind of work. And I experienced that as a sales manager because I, in the car business, I, recruited and trained and managed salespeople, and those people that came from that type of job that they all thought they could do it. I could sell cars, right? They never lasted, and even sometimes they didn't last past. Most of the time, they didn't last past an interview because they're like, "How much money am I going to make?" I'm like, "I don't know.
Ooh, yeah,
hopefully a lot." Well, what do you mean you don't know? Like there's no guarantee? Nope. You eat what you kill here. Well, no, that's how am I supposed to get my bills paid? I'm like, I have no idea. Yeah. I don't know how I get mine paid, but somehow I do, right? That's
people will walk through that door, and the rest is up to you. Like,
yeah, but no promises. But this is a good time to transition because you spent 10 years, doing manual labor type jobs. On the side, in your downtime, you're writing down jokes, and you were really fixated on comedy, and you love comedians. You listen to all kinds of different comedians. You had your favorites, and you end up just saying fuck it and move to Toronto and start doing open mics and doing stand up. So talk about like one extreme to the other. And I think it's relevant here to talk about it because, and you can expand on this a bit, but like, standing on a stage by yourself with a light on you, with a crowd of people that have alcohol, and your job is to try and make them laugh. Like, you're kind of selling something, right? You're getting paid in laughs, and you know, you're going to face a lot of rejection. They might not laugh. Think about. Can you recall, or maybe you can never forget, like the first time you ever went on stage and totally bombed?
Yeah.
So did that take you back to like trying to sell that vacuum in that farmhouse?
Oh my God.
But worse?
The vacuum was way easier.
Yeah.
Because everyone was kind of in on the joke, but
right.
I remember my first time ever on stage was at the comic strip in Edmonton. The little, I think Rick Bronson's comic strip. It's on the Bourbon in West Edmonton Mall.
Okay.
And my first time ever out on stage, I kind of killed it.
Nice. That's probably the worst thing to happen to you.
Well, I was maybe, and I'd practiced for just in front of the mirror, timing myself for a month and a half before I had the courage to actually go up. I went and watched probably 8 different open mic nights from start to finish, which is the best thing you can do because it takes a lot of this. For these, if you've never been to an open mic, it is a completely different experience than going to a comedy club and watching someone on a Friday, because that's when the professional's out. Going to a pizza place on a Tuesday is a bunch of people who are figuring it out, and But the first time that I bombed, there was a show that it was the first one I was invited to, because that's the thing. There's mics where you show up and you put your name on a list, or the slightly next level to that is you're asked to come to a show. And it was my first time being asked, and I think that got to my head. It was a busy bar. It was the same afternoon/evening of the NFL draft. So there was a lot of people in this pub in Edmonton there for that.
They're not even watching you. They're looking at the screen.
No, and I was like, we were annoying, and I think the other people that were there were like, I mean, the bar's paying us, we'll get up there. This is a bomb session, and people that have been around for a month longer than I had knew that, but I didn't, and I just I thought I'll bring him around. My A material, which is my only material, and
I'm funnier than these guys.
Yeah, and yeah, just ate shit. I feel like there's in The Simpsons, whenever there's a quiet moment, there's always a guy coughing.
Yeah,
just like the bar was loud, except for the 2-second period after I told a joke. Like. So that was a lesson, which is, what do you take away from that? And that's translated so much into sales, because you're not going to get every sale, and you're not gonna win them all, but you're also, you better not do that thing again.
Right. So, but you play to this shit crowd, and you don't get a single laugh. You totally bomb, but like, you got to develop a thick skin, right? You got to get back up on stage and try it again, right? Or maybe try something a little different.
Yeah.
So like,
and that was the thing. Like, something that worked a couple times previously, it worked really well. It didn't this time, and I don't know if it was just different vibes or different crowd, or no one was really listening. Of course, the terrible comedian will always blame the crowd, and of course, if the crowd's not paying attention, that is a factor. But that's just the thick skin is like, it makes it easier if you try and learn something from it, and you get better, and that's.
So now, having had that experience, now if you go out on a sales call, someone not buying into your pitch or whatever, or not having any of it, it's like, it's probably a lot easier to let that just roll off your back or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
when I'm prospecting, I'm kind of cold calling in person to construction sites. So
right.
Construction supplies I sell to high-end home builds, and so I'm approaching and looking for the guy in charge.
Okay, so let's like segue into what you do now.
Sure, yeah.
Do you still do a bit of comedy on the side?
No.
That's too bad.
I kind of tapered off after a while, and around COVID, it all transitioned to like online shows, and that's, I think a lot of people. Weird. It was super weird. Like, it just, you can't gauge a reaction, or like, you're not feeding off anything. You're not really getting anything out of it. It's not,
Yeah, that's not the same as a live.
It's
live
not the
crowd.
same. No.
Yeah.
And I think that was a time that a lot of people, once it fired up again, there were people that couldn't wait to get back, and I was like, what? I don't know, I'm I'm busy. So
yeah, so you've landed a decent sales job. So what you do now? Prior to this, you did like equipment rental or something, right?
Yeah.
And so who were your clients for that?
Wide array of clients. Mostly construction, but also manufacturing. It's equipment, so it can be something as small as a chipping hammer or a giant torque wrench, all the way up to an excavator. Sanders, scaffolding. If someone's altering something in some way, or warehouses if they're forklift breaks down, then they need a replacement. Right. So just things like that. Mostly, it was a lot of the same thing, just cold calling, just approaching construction sites, look for the guy in charge.
Right. How do you tell who's in charge?
Different
hat?
I guess. Or actually, no, one thing I love about Toronto is there's always a gate or a fence around a construction site, and they have to post the permit, and the permit will just have the super's name on it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so I look at that, I'm like, okay. I walk in, I ask for Randy. If you asked for their name, then people are like, oh, he's looking for Randy. I'll show him where Randy is.
He must know Randy.
If you walk in and you say, I need to talk to the super, they're like, I don't know, he's busy, man.
Yeah, they're going to screen you out of
there. You're the sixth guy that day looking for the super.
Well, but who's the idiot that asked for the super when the guy's goddamn name's right on the sign?
Well, the 5 idiots before me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, God bless him. I mean, it paved the way for you.
But the other good news is in Toronto, construction is like 80% Italian people. So if you walk on a site and ask for Tony, you're gonna get someone.
Good chance there's a Tony that can
or
make
Frank. It's Tony or Frank. Yeah. Or it's Tony or Frank sent me. Okay, cool. It. I hate how often that works.
Oh, hey, use it. Okay, so you go to these job sites, and what do you just introduce yourself? Like, hey, I represent such and such equipment. Like, you guys, need anything on site? Give me a call. Like, do you kind of leave it open ended, or is there kind of an angle that you play?
I announce where I'm from. We are well known among the builders. Right now I only deal with kind of home builds because I sell doors, custom doors, and trim. So the molding, baseboards, casing, crown molding, all that stuff. And most houses have like if you're building a home, you have that. If you're doing a reno, you have that. And we are pretty well known among a lot of the builders. And that's my first gauge, is to figure out if I can tell by their reaction whether they know the company or not.
So when you got that gig, did they give you a territory, like a geographic territory, or like a list of companies that are going to be yours that you have exclusive access to, or like is there already existing business that you got to try to manage and grow, or something like that?
You get a handful of existing customers, and there's no territories. It's all account based. So the expectation is that we are paying you to bring in new business. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not following up or doing quotes or going through my existing customers, I'm out pounding the pavement, I guess, knocking on. I'm not knocking on doors, because if there's a door there, I'm too late.
Yeah.
So I was telling you, I'm a door-to-door door salesman.
Yeah, I love that.
So
you should get that on your business card.
But so I mean, I drive up to the site. I know what stage it's at immediately, or for the most part. If it's in framing, they're a couple months before they need me. If I can catch the builder on site, it's probably the framers on site. They don't want to have anything to do with me. If the frame's already up and the electricians are on site, maybe the builder's around. The builder's the person I want to deal with. If I'm lucky, I meet the homeowner. They are the people that ultimately make the decision. They very rarely defer the decision, because it's a stylistic choice of what doors and what trim to put in. You have an idea. A lot of them have a designer, and they go back and forth. But yeah, I figure out what stage. First thing I do is I look at the name of the company on the fence, and I look it up in our system to see if it's someone else's account.
Right.
And if it's someone else's account, I don't waste my time. Mm-hmm. But I do text them with the address and say, this is your account. They have a site here, in case you haven't quoted them yet.
So are you like chasing whales? Like, you want to work your way up, kind of higher up the decision-making chain, and get like kind of a long-term contract to supply?
It's not really contracts. It's mostly case by case. But if you get in good with somebody, you become their first call. That's kind of the goal. And that was a big thing in equipment rentals too. You just want to be their first call. And to do that, if you're approaching them and they don't know you, you're not going to be their first call. You just keep showing up and hope to be their second call. And when they call you, you better come through.
You better deliver, yeah.
And then if you help them out of a jam, if they call you at 4:30 and they're like, I need a Bobcat here tomorrow morning, and you call the office and you move, heaven and earth to talk to your logistics team and pull one out.
Fucking Bobcat.
Get a fucking Bobcat to site. If you do that, you're their hero, and you're now their first call.
And then
you're their first call until you fuck up, and then the other guy that's sniffing around,
the guy that's waiting behind you.
It's this cycle.
And then do you have a there or where you currently are, do you have a manager or a management structure in place that understands that, okay, yeah, the cost that I'm asking you to spend to do this might not be justified now, but over the long term, if I can land these guys and get them in the habit of calling me first, like it'll all pay for itself, right?
Yeah, very very supportive management structure. The president of the company, he's in the family that owns the company. It's a privately owned company, but he started out in the warehouse, and he moved onto the sales desk, and then he moved into outside sales, sales management, and eventually operations management, and all the way up to president. He's basically had his hands on every position in the company.
Perfect. So the guy that's managing you has literally done your job and gets it.
Yeah.
That's a perfect situation.
And they basically they give you a long runway, and this is not something I find in a lot of sales jobs, is that we have targets, and the targets just get higher and higher. It's like 3-month periods because they understand. When I was with a rental company for equipment, you can find any stage of a construction project and be useful. Like, if the electrician's in there, you go in there and you rent scissor lifts to the electricians. If the drywallers are in there, you go in there and you rent them, or you sell them a new sander. They have these like long, they look like a boom mic, these long sanders that they use on the drywall. Any step of the way, you can be useful. But at my current job, there's only one. It's hitting a very narrow target. So they realize that you need to get a lot of momentum and build up a lot of customers, so they don't expect you to go out there and perform in the first even year and a half like one of their senior guys. So they are investing a lot in people, and it's very much appreciated.
Nice. So this is like a relationship sales business. It's not so much transactional. It's like, you know, you're trying to create familiarity and trust and get those guys in the habit of, you know, calling you first. Like, do you get any kind of expense account? Can you take these guys for dinner or you know, do you bring them coffees, that kind of shit?
Yep. I was told directly from the president, you should probably learn how to golf.
Yeah.
And that will go a long way, and that is an understood part of it. You know, dinners, you know, don't get too crazy. You still have to bring it, you know. No strip clubs is but
how's your golf game?
It is not great.
I still haven't got around to trying to learn, but every year I'm like, I should probably learn this stupid game.
If I have a client that has, like, I've got a couple orders through, to show him appreciation, take him out for a round of golf, if he's into golf, then, like, yeah, I think that goes a long way. Because, like, people love it because it still feels like they're working, but they're also kind of fucking off.
Yeah, they're kind of on the clock, but not. No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, just going back to the comedy thing, like, there's kind of a method to it, right? Like you're testing out jokes, and you're maybe, you know, trying to string some jokes together into a bit and testing material and seeing how it works and constantly refining it and stuff. And then, you know, you're measuring the audience's reaction. Has that kind of, like, going through that experience, has that kind of reorganized your circuitry, kind of the way your brain works? And like, do you apply that in your work now or in life in general?
In a big way, yeah. I think a few of the main areas is gauging reaction. You need to be perceptive, and you, just like with a crowd, you can tell, like, oh, I'm losing them. That's such and not everyone has that, and you can see that as a third party to a conversation. Sometimes you'll see two people talking, and one guy's just kind of going on, and you're like, oh, no, stop talking. Yeah. Stop talking. He doesn't care. Like, he's thinking about, like, I could see in his face he wants to check his phone right now, and he's being very polite. So you need to be able to engage someone's level of interest. And I think a trial by fire version of that is comedy, because you have a room full of people,
right?
And then also, like, everyone kind of has their go-to jokes that just kind of work. And one thing about comedy is you're not writing a new fresh 5 minutes every time you go up there. It's the same ones, and you have to get used to that. It feels awkward to just tell the same joke over and over and over. And then once you get past that, now I've got my Rolodex of like 3 or 4 dumb jokes when I'm approaching a site.
But they always get you a laugh.
They always get me a laugh because no one's expecting it, and also there's no better way to like suck the tension out of a room than everyone just having a chuckle. You know, everyone lowers the shoulders a little bit. It works. It's disarming.
That's awesome. So like there's a few things that you got out of that. Like for one, really thick skin, being able to eat shit, take rejection, get back up on stage, go for it again. And then this sixth sense, or this just a deeper perception of people and a sense of when you've got their attention and then this other thing too, this getting over the repetition. That was one thing that I always struggled with too, and that makes a lot of sense that you could kind of condition yourself to that doing stand-up, because having to make the same pitch over and over and over again, I get sick of my own words, right? Like, and I was always fighting that. I was like, trying to personalize it to who I was talking to, but depending on the amount of volume you're doing, there's only so many different ways you can say the same thing, right? What's funny too is that like the the vacuum cleaner thing, you've got like a pretty detailed script, like word for word that you got to follow, and you got to hit every note on that, right?
Now I kind of have my own that I'm always working on.
Yeah, so you're working on a bit, and a rhythm, right? So to approach that construction site, find the guy that can make a decision, get a laugh out of him, get a conversation going, keep his attention. That's an art form, and I love that how much that overlaps with comedy, because it didn't always occur to me, but that kind of comes together. Like any of the other guys that you did comedy with, where have they all landed?
I know one for sure is still doing it, and
nice.
He's killing it. Because when I moved here, I hit a couple open mics and was just not getting any traction, and ended up taking some classes, which people will shit on a lot. But I would recommend it, especially if you're in sales, as long as you understand what you expect to get out of it. If you think that you're going to go into it and come out as as on a spot for laughs, that's not how it works. But you're basically buying stage time in a controlled, safe environment, and you get the experience. So in that class, I actually had 2 different classes with the same guy, James, and he just recorded his first special. I kind of petered off, and I was there for the recording. I still talk to him on Instagram, and I listen to the recording, and I can hear my obnoxious ass laugh in the crowd.
Oh, I love it.
So
this guy took the course with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Anyone that shits on that can eat their own shit, because there's never, you're never wasting time like investing in yourself and working on your skills. And if you can go to someone that's done it and been there and can get you to the next level, that's an investment in yourself.
One of the first things that me and my now wife related on, she also took those courses because she was in sales. At the time, she was working at Labatt. She was an account manager, and just for basically public speaking presentation skills. So in those scenarios before everyone was on Zoom, you're pitching in front of a room full of people, and a good way to get practice at that at a place that's not your job is these comedy classes. And she really enjoyed doing that. She also took some improv classes and got a lot out of it.
So she deliberately took the comedy classes to improve her sales game?
Yes.
Oh, that is really cool. I had no idea. Oh, she's gonna have to be a guest on here. And now I want to sign up and do a comedy class and go eat shit in front of a hostile crowd.
You should. It's fun as hell. If also, it's not quite the same, but improv classes can be fun. It feels like recess for adults. Is like you just have to get over yourself a little bit because it feels cringe and annoying and weird and
like a drama class.
Yeah. But then once you
for the class clowns,
once you loosen up, it can be a lot of fun, and it's good for, but for presentation for like heavily relatable sales skills, I would actually really strongly advise. I went to Second City, not to give them like a plug or anything, but they're pretty big in Toronto. I know there's other ones. You'll probably get a good value out of it. There's like 3 stages of it, and I did all 3, and I really enjoyed it. I took, I was thinking about it the other day, like when you get a pilot's license, you need a certain amount of time in the air, and it's expensive to get your pilot's license because you have to rent time in a plane. You have to pay someone
$150 an hour
to go up there, and it's kind of the same, except with comedy there is a free option, and it's almost like a little bit of a shortcut. It's a sanitized, safer version. You're not staying out till 1:00 in the morning on a Tuesday waiting for your name to get called. Which is fine when you're 19 and you work at Winners, but if you have a corporate job and you want to do this as a hobby, it's a little harder to find time for that. So it's a lot of value for that, I'd say.
That's a great takeaway from this, and something I want to try now, and it hadn't even occurred to me, and that's really cool that Laura did that. But that's a really strong piece of advice for people in any kind of sales, whether they're new or whether they're a veteran. They could probably improve or level up their skills by trying their hand at a little comedy. I'm going to give it
at the very least, it will definitely quiet that voice in the back of your brain when you're watching comedy and you're like, I can do this. Like, yeah, you can, but not
like that guy.
Not like that guy.
Yeah.
That guy makes it look easy because he ate shit for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, it reminds me of the senior account guys at my company. I'm like, ugh, this guy's got hundreds of clients. He makes crazy money. I'm like, oh yeah, because he's been doing it for 25 years. Like,
you know what? I had a bit of that attitude when I started in real estate. I was like, who are these dinosaurs? They don't even have an Instagram account. And then, after my first 100 deals or so, I was like, okay, yeah, experience actually really matters a lot.
Yep.
But you fake it till you make it, right?
Experience, connections, and networking, all that. All those things come into it,
Yeah. Well, we're coming on 50 minutes. I love where this went. I really appreciate you doing this with me. And I hope to see you standing on a stage again, telling jokes. I'd be sad if you never did that again. And I love you. You're my brother. And have a great night.
Well, thanks for having me on, brother.